Nonverbal communication, what it is, why it matters, how to improve yours, and how to check if someone is faking it. Check out this video to learn all about nonverbal communication and find out how to read and use body language in ways that build better relationships at work and at home. Experts say nonverbal communication is more powerful, more effective, and more enduring than verbal communication, so you definitely want to pay attention to yours the next time you interact with people. As the saying goes, it's not what they said, it's how they said it. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as splendid as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. I want to talk to you today about nonverbal communication. Let's first talk about body language. Let's define it. Let's go into the nitty-gritty here. What is body language? Body language is basically everything that is not said, that is not verbally said. While the key to success in both personal and professional relationships lies in your ability to communicate well. It's not the words that you use, but your nonverbal cues that speak the loudest, your body language. So body language is the use of physical behavior, expressions, and mannerisms to communicate nonverbally, often done instinctively rather than consciously. Whether you are aware of it or not, when you interact with others, you are continuously giving and receiving wordless signals. So all of your nonverbal behaviors, I'm talking about the gestures you make, your posture, your tone of voice, how much eye contact you make, they send strong messages. They can put people at ease, build trust, or draw others towards you, or they can offend, confuse, and undermine what you're trying to convey. So these messages don't stop when you stop speaking either. Even if you're silent, you're still communicating non-verbally. In some instances, what comes out of your mouth and what you communicate through your body language may be two totally different things. So if you say one thing but your body language says something else, your listener will likely feel that you are being dishonest, you're lying. Let's say you say yes while shaking your head no, for example. So when faced with such mixed signals, the listener has to choose whether to believe your verbal or non-verbal message. Since body language is a natural, unconscious language that broadcasts your true feelings and intentions, they'll likely choose the nonverbal message. Why does nonverbal communication matter, folks? This is kind of important. Your nonverbal communication, your body language, that is, the way you listen, look, move, react, those tell the person you're communicating with whether or not you care, if you're being truthful, and how well you're listening. So when your nonverbal signals match up with the words you're saying, they increase trust, clarity, and rapport. When they don't, however, they can generate tension, mistrust, and confusion. Nonverbal communication can play five roles. Repetition, contradiction, substitution, complementing, and accenting. So repetition means it repeats and often strengthens the message you're making verbally. Contradiction, it can contradict the message you're trying to convey, thus indicating to your listener that you may not be telling the truth. Substitution, it can substitute for a verbal message. For example, your facial expression often conveys a far more vivid message than words ever can. Complementing, it may add to or complement your verbal message. Right? So as a boss, for example, if you pat an employee on the back in addition to giving praise, it can increase the impact of your message. And accenting, it may accent or underline a verbal message. So let's say if you pound on the table, this can underline the importance of your message. Let's now talk about types of nonverbal communication. There are many types of nonverbal communication or body language. So you have facial expressions, body movement and posture, gestures, eye contact, touch, space, voice. About facial expression, the human face is wonderfully expressive and is able to convey countless emotions without saying a word, right? And unlike some forms of nonverbal communication, facial expressions are universal. The facial expressions for happiness, sadness, anger, surprise, fear, and disgust are the same across all cultures. Even animals, some animals have that. They share this with humans. So body movement and posture. So you want to consider how your perceptions of people are affected by the way they sit, talk, walk, stand, or hold their head. The way you move and carry yourself communicates a wealth of information to the world. So this type of nonverbal communication includes your posture, bearing, stance, and the subtle movements you make. What about gestures? Those are actually the stuff we do every day. Gestures are just part of our daily lives. You must wave, point, beckon, or use your hands when arguing or speaking erratically, often expressing yourself with gestures without thinking. However, the meaning of some gestures can be very different across cultures. This is what I was saying earlier. Compared to facial expression, some other nonverbal cues are not the same across cultures. I'll give you an example. While the OK sign made with the hand, for example, conveys a positive message in English-speaking countries, it's considered offensive in countries such as Germany, Russia, and Brazil. So it's important to be careful of how you use gestures to avoid misinterpretation. Eye contact is kind of important. Also, you want to look people in the eyes. Touch. We communicate a great deal through touch, so think about the different language, the different messages rather, given by a weak handshake, a warm bear hug, or a patronizing pat on the head, or a controlling grip on the arm, for example. Space. Have you ever felt uncomfortable during a conversation because the other person was standing too close to you? They were actually invading your space, right? We all have a need for physical space, although that need differs depending on the culture, the situation, and the closeness of the relationship. So you can use physical space to communicate many different nonverbal messages, including signals of intimacy and affection, aggression, or dominance. When it comes to voice, remember what I said earlier, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So when you speak, other people read your voice in addition to listening to your words. Things they pay attention to include your timing and pace, how loud you speak, your tone and inflection, and sounds that convey understanding, such as uh-huh. Think about how your tone or voice can indicate sarcasm, anger, affection, or confidence. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're all still having a conversation here around nonverbal communication, what it is, why it matters, how to improve yours, and how to check if someone is faking it. Speaking about faking it, let's talk about, can nonverbal communication be faked? That's a great question, right? What do you think? Yes, no? Just put it in the comments. Put it in the comments right now and come back later on to revise it. There are many books and websites, for that matter, that offer advice on how to use body language to your advantage. For example, they may instruct you on how to sit in a certain way, stipple your fingers, or shake hands in order to appear confident or assert dominance. But the real truth is that such tricks are not likely to work unless you truly feel confident and in charge. That's because you cannot control all of the signals you're constantly sending about what you're really thinking and feeling. And the harder you try, the more unnatural your signals are likely to come across. However, that doesn't mean that you have no control over your nonverbal cues. For example, if you disagree with or dislike what somebody is saying, you may use negative body language to rebuff the person's message, such as crossing your arms, avoiding eye contact, or tapping your feet. You don't have to agree or even like what's been said, but to communicate effectively and not put the other person on the defensive, you can make a conscious effort to avoid sending negative signals by maintaining an open stance and truly understanding what the person is saying and why. You have to understand, though, that sometimes nonverbal communication can go wrong, which is why you constantly have to be on the alert. So when you communicate, say, through your body language and nonverbal signal, you are indirectly or directly affecting how others see you, how well they like and respect you, and whether or not they trust you. Unfortunately, many people send confusing or negative nonverbal signals without even knowing it. When that happens, both connection and trust in relationships are damaged, and sometimes they're damaged for a long time. So these smart, well-intentioned people struggle in their attempt to connect with others. The sad thing is that they are not aware of the nonverbal messages they communicate. So if you want to communicate effectively, you want to avoid misunderstandings and enjoy solid, trusting relationships, both at work and in life. it's kind of important to understand how to use and interpret body language and improve your nonverbal communication skills. Speaking about improving nonverbal communication skills, how do you actually do that? Nonverbal communication is a rapidly flowing back and forth process that requires your full focus on the moment-to-moment experience. You got to be in the moment. You got to be here, and you got to be here, not there. So if you're planning, say, to communicate better, and you're planning what you're going to say next, checking your phone or thinking about something else, you're almost certain to miss nonverbal cues and not fully understand the subtleties of what's being communicated. As well as being fully present, you can improve how you communicate nonverbally by learning to manage stress and developing emotional awareness. Learn to manage stress in the moment. This is one important thing. Stress will compromise your ability to communicate. When you're stressed out, a lot of stuff happens, including the fact that you're more likely to misread other people, send confusing or off-putting nonverbal signals, and lapse into unhealthy knee-jerk patterns of behavior. Now remember though, emotions are contagious. So if you're happy, people will be happy around you. If you're sad, they'll be sad around you. If you're stressed, they'll be stressed too. Think about when you are at work and one colleague is stressed or the boss is stressed. What happens to employees? So if you're upset, it's very likely to make others upset too, thus making a bad situation worse. So you have to learn to manage stress in the moment. You have to, we actually covered this topic in another show, but the fastest and surest way to calm yourself and manage stress in the moment is to employ your senses. So what you hear, what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, or through a soothing movement. You also want to develop your emotional awareness. So in order to send accurate nonverbal cues, you need to be aware of your emotions and how they influence you. So you also need to be able to recognize the emotions of others and the true feelings behind the cues they are sending you. This is where emotional awareness comes in. So what does it mean? Being emotionally aware enables you to accurately read other people, including the emotions they're feeling and the unspoken messages they're sending. Create trust in relationships by sending nonverbal signals that match up with words. Respond in ways that show others that you understand and care. Now, many of us are disconnected from our emotions, especially strong emotions such as anger, sadness, and fear, because we've been taught to try to shut off our feelings. But while you can deny or numb your feelings, you cannot eliminate them. They are still there. They are still affecting your behavior. So by developing your emotional awareness and connecting with even the unpleasant emotions, though, you will gain greater control over how you think and act. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Key, where we are still having a conversation around nonverbal communication, what it is, why it matters, how to improve yours, and how to check if somebody is faking it. I want to talk to you now about how to read body language, how to interpret nonverbal communication. So once you have developed, say, your abilities to manage stress and recognize emotions, you'll start to become better at reading the nonverbal communication sent by others. It's also very important to pay attention to inconsistencies. So nonverbal communication should reinforce what is being said. If the person is saying one thing, but their body language is conveying something else, then they're not being honest with you. Look at nonverbal communication signals as a group. Don't read too much into a single gesture or nonverbal cue. Consider all of the nonverbal signals you are receiving, from eye contact to tone of voice and body language. Taken together, are their nonverbal cues consistent or inconsistent with what their words are saying? Trust your instincts. Never dismiss your gut feelings. If you get the sense that someone isn't being honest or that something is adding up, you may be picking up on a mismatch between verbal and nonverbal cues. Evaluating nonverbal signals. So, eye contact, facial expression, tone of voice, posture and gesture, touch, intensity, timing and pace, sounds. You have to pay attention to all of these things. Now, eye contact, is the person making eye contact? If so, is it overly intense or just right? Facial expression, what is their face showing? Is it mask-like or unexpressive? Is it emotionally present or filled with interest? The tone of voice. Does the person's voice project warmth, confidence, and interest, or is it strained or blocked? Posture and gesture. Is their body relaxed or stiff and immobile? Are their shoulders tense and raised or relaxed? Touch. Is there a physical contact? Is it appropriate to the situation? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Intensity. Does the person seem flat, cool, and disinterested, or over the top and melodramatic? In terms of timing and place, is there an easy flow of information back and forth? Do nonverbal responses come too quickly or too slowly? Sounds. Do you hear sounds that indicate interest, caring, or concern from the person? So this is the wide catalog of things you have to look at, the wide catalog of nonverbal signals that tell you if there is a mismatch rather between what the person is saying and what they're showing you nonverbally, or whether there is a match, whether there is synergy, there is cohesion. All right, folks, thank you so much for listening to today's conversation. I really appreciate it. That was it for nonverbal communication, what it is, why it matters, how to improve yours, and how to check if someone is faking it. I will see you next time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.